Alright, so today we're gonna finish talking about task management, how checklist will allow us to manage our tasks productively, and which are the 3 specific types of checklists that we will find. If you want to see the previous videos about task management, they're going to be right on your screen right now and also in the description below this video. Hi, my name is Jorge Muñoz. I'm a senior instructor pilot working in El Salvador, and as always you will find the timestamps linked in the description below this video and also in a pinned comment down below, in case you want to check out something in particular. Now, let's assume that we all have a pretty clear idea about what task management actually is, as well as which are the resources that we can use to do that effectively. So I'm not going to be explaining any of that in this video. Okay, so now let's talk about checklists. What is a checklist in this context, and what kind of checklist actually exists out there to help us manage our task in the airplane? So first, what is a checklist for aviation? Well, to be quite honest with you, it's very similar to the checklists that we use in our everyday life. You know, to go shopping or just to plan out our day. But it is much more well planned out, with a very specific order of steps, with a very specific goal in mind, and making sure that everything follows a specific logical order step by step. So, what I mean with this is that when we are at a grocery store, it doesn't really matter if we buy this or that first or later. The only thing that matters to us is to actually complete the checklist. But when it comes down to checklists for an airplane, everything has to follow a specific logical order. The checklists are made as a numbered list so that we can complete them in the correct order, like the order of the numbers. And as you already know, or as you will discover soon enough, checklists are all over the aviation's world. We have checklists for everything, and they are everywhere for a good reason, to help us with task management. Just as with the shopping checklist, we cannot and shouldn't trust that our dumb brains will remember everything that we need to buy or to do. Well, so we need a checklist for before even starting the engine, to start the engine, to make a run-up of the engine, a before and after takeoff checklist, before and after landing checklist, and so on. There are so many more. Try to say something about any phase of the flight. We probably have a checklist for that. Alright, so long story short, checklists help us to avoid distractions while completing certain procedures, like getting ready for takeoff. A distraction will make us forget something that we have to do even though we know how to do it. And therefore, because our brains are dumb, we follow checklists. So now, secondly, what type of checklist will we have as a resource to manage our tasks? Well, there are 3, but the ones that will really help us with this task management thing are actually only 2. And they are the do list checklist and the flow pattern checklists. The third one is the emergency checklists, but we will talk about them later. Let's start with the do list checklists. The idea for this one is pretty easy. You have your checklist right here in your hand with, let's say, 10 steps that you have to complete. So you actually read each step and immediately perform the action. Then you read the next step and also complete the action, and so on. We use this type of checklist when we have plenty of time. I mean, literally, time is not a factor here. Time is not a problem, but actually completing the steps in the right order is a problem. Completing the checklist with the order that it demands is crucial, critical even. So I'll give you an example. When you are about to start an engine, again, just as an example, this is no specific order to start any engine. First, we have keys ready. So we take the keys and put them in. Now that step is completed. Now, master switch on. We flip the switch and it is also completed. Next step, electrical fuel pump on. Flip the switch, okay. Propeller area, clear. Over here at this part, we usually shout the word clear and look outside so we can verify that there is actually no one near us, nor near the engine. Magnetos, both check, and only then we can start the engine. And there you have it, a pretty short but solid example of a do list. You do and you perform. Here you practically let the checklist do all the task management for you. You just follow it, you are just along the ride, with no room for distractions. Now give me a second before we continue. If you want to prepare yourself in the best possible way you can, if you want to be an outstanding private pilot, if you're curious and you want to prepare yourself in the best possible way for all the tests to come, or even if you are an advanced pilot that wants to remember and perfect the knowledge and the basis of the VFR world, or if you want to start your private pilot training with a heads up over the others, I highly recommend you should check out my book Essential Knowledge for Private Pilot. You will find the link of the book in the description below this video. It is an Amazon Kindle exclusive. This book uses the two most effective study techniques in the whole world, which are active recall and spaced repetition, and it applies them into aviation. If that sounds good to you, then please go check out the book down below. It is available in English as well in Spanish. Remember, you shouldn't be studying hard, you should be studying effectively, and with this book you can do just that. And that's it, continuing with the video. Now let's talk about the flow pattern checklist. The mentality with this type of checklist is basically to go with the flow inside the cockpit, all around the cockpit. A flow pattern guides to you throughout the cockpit, but with a logical order, from step to step. You'll notice that this type of checklist usually moves you from the left all the way to the right, or from the right all the way to the left, inside the cockpit. After all, it is a flow. It is actually supposed to feel natural, and if you stop for a moment to think about it, you'll notice that what you're doing is something that actually comes with logic. It should feel really natural to your understanding of the airplane and the situation you are in. Of course, to do this in the right way, you need a good basis. It cannot be some random dude that happens to be next to you in the airplane and that doesn't know squat about airplanes. It doesn't work that way. The big difference between these two types of checklists is that for this one you actually complete the flow pattern first before ever going back to check the checklists, because order is not as crucial as with the do list checklists. As long as you, well, actually complete the flow pattern, and of course, after completing the flow, you go back to the checklist and make sure that you have accomplished every item on the checklist. We want to use this type of checklist when the order of the items to perform is not critical, but maybe the time can be. So that is what we prioritize. Now, about the emergency checklists, we will only use these ones for situations like the one the name itself suggests, emergencies. So, why are these ones different and unique from the other two? Because an emergency checklist can have few or many items according to the type of emergency that you have to complete, from memory 100%. For the most part, on an emergency, I mean a real emergency, you won't have time to refer to the checklist. So it has to be as fast and as perfect as it can be. And, well, you will assume that there is no room for failures nor second chances. Only if you have already completed all the items there is, only after you have completed all the steps in the right order, and if time permits, this is very important, only then you can go back to refer to the checklist. So, for example, an engine failure. You should already know how to react and what to do, so you can just do it immediately. First, let's maintain speed above stall and define a terrain to land the airplane if there is no airport nearby. Then we check if we have oil pressure, cause if we don't, there is no point at all on trying to restart the engine. But as for this example, we do have oil pressure. We turn electrical fuel pump on, we switch tanks, we make sure that the fuel mixture is full rich and the carburetor heat is on. We check all the engine parameters and we make sure that the primer is secured. Now, if that didn't work and our engine is still with no power, we can also try different configurations between our magnetos, from left to right to both, and different settings between our throttle and our mixture to see if we can find a setting that gets the engine back alive. If none of that worked, then I'm sorry boys and girls, but we are going to prepare the airplane for a power-off landing, which is a totally different emergency checklist. So let's say, just for the sake of it, that we have already finished our power-off landing, we have our terrain to land the airplane, and we are sure that we have enough altitude that we are going to make it to that terrain no matter what. Only then we should be referring to our emergency checklist, when there is not much more for us to do, to see if there is actually something more that we could still do. So that does it about this whole theme about task management. If you found this video interesting, then you should go check out this short playlist over here. It's all about risk management. Or maybe this video over here if you want to know how to study effectively. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye bye.